Good morning, guys. Mr. Parisi here, and today we're going to be talking about tips and earning tips as well as your hourly rate. So there are some jobs that you might know of that get paid in tips as well as a normal pay. So what is a tip or gratuity? That's the first question we're going to be asking, and all you need to know is a tip is just extra money paid. And the key part here is for good service. So if you do really well at your job, these people tend to, or customers tend to pay you a little bit of extra money if they feel like you did your job very well. So what types of jobs usually collect tips along with their hourly rate? The first one that everybody thinks of is a waiter or a waitress. Okay. There are many others though, such as if you work at Delta Sonic and do the car wash, they get tips. If you pump gas, not all gas stations do this, but some gas stations have people that pump gas, and usually people give them tips. Another common one would be getting your hair or nails done, whether you go to a barber, a hair salon. Traditionally, after you're done, you pay for your haircut, but you also give a tip, a little bit of extra money for that person. And then the other one that I was thinking of is people that do deliveries. Now, I'm not saying like Amazon or UPS, but think of like Uber Eats or what's the other one? DoorDash. And like that, drivers. So Uber, Lyft, taxi drivers, anything like that. These are all people that usually you would pay a tip to as well as their normal form of pay. So how much is a customary tip for some of these jobs? It's going to change based on the job. If we're talking about a waiter or a waitress, usually if they're good service, they would say 20% of the bill. And for a lot of these, 20% is going to be your key number. Now, again, it changes. If I'm talking about my car wash at Delta Sonic, that might only be, like $1 to $5 or something like that. Nothing crazy. But as the service gets more and more, if it's a 2-hour haircut, that might be a more substantial tip then. So these are all subject to change based on, how good the service is or how long whatever takes or how much you pay for food. But it's just something to go off of, something to start to figure out, okay, how much should I tip here? So for our first question, Carla is a hairstylist and receives these tips in one day. So we got all of these tips here. What's the total of all these tips? All we have to do is add them up. When we do that, you should get a grand total of $50.25. Be careful when you're plugging in this many numbers. Obviously, we have decimal points in there. You've got a bunch of different tips that you got to add up, so just take your time. Okay? Now we can go on to our next question. So let's see here. Number two, again, we've got a waitress this time earning the following tips in a given week. How much were her total? We're just adding them up. The week in total, she made $211.40 in tips. Okay. Number 3 and 4 get a little trickier, but nothing too bad. Josh usually works 35 hours per week at Supercuts, gets paid an hourly rate of $7.50, and typically brings in an extra $150 per week in tips. What's his weekly wage? So it's almost like we got to treat this like the overtime problems, where we just want to talk about my straight time pay first. So when I'm talking about straight time, I'm saying, okay, how many hours did he work? 35. How much money is he getting paid per hour? $7.50. So my straight time pay is before the tips. This is going to get me $262.50. Okay, nice and simple. But he's also going to make his tips. Okay, in this case, the tips were $150. So for the whole week, Josh is going to end up making $412.50. So tips, jobs that you can get tips with, are really nice way to make extra cash. If you have a busy week, you're going to be able to really stack a lot of cash. If you work like during football games, if you're a waitress, or weekends, that's when you're going to get the most customers, and that's when you're going to be able to make the most money in tips. Number 4 is just like number 3. Mark works 25 hours at Duff's, gets paid an hourly rate of $9.25, and typically brings in $120 per week in tips. What's his weekly wage? Start with my straight time. How many hours did he work? 25. How much money did he make per hour? $9.25. So for straight time I'm making, this one comes out to $231.25. $231.25, but I'm also making tips plus my tips. And in this case, tips were $120, so it's plus $120 to give me the grand total of $351.25. The other type of question you could get with tips is, let's say you went out to eat. I went to Duff's and I got wings for my whole family, and my bill came to $150. Okay, this is separate from that question. If my bill was $150, now remember I said in general you want to leave a tip of 20% if the service is good. So if my service was good and I want to tip 20%, this is going to be a concept that shows up all year, is what do I do with a percentage? Well, whenever I see one in this class, I should be thinking I'm going to need to multiply. But before I can do that, I got to change this to a decimal. So I'm going to find my decimal point, which is right here, move it 2 times to the left, get my new number, which is going to be 0.20, and now I can multiply that by my bill. So my tip is going to end up being a $30 tip here. So my tip is $30. The bill was $150. So in total, this trip to Duff's would end up costing me $150 plus 30 in tip, which is going to be $180. Okay, so that's how we're going to treat tips if we're given a percentage, like in this case. Change it to a decimal and multiply. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment on the Google Classroom post, and make sure you submit your notes and turn in the assignment when you're done. Thank you. Have a great day.